week 3 of Max Holloway's training camp in Hawaii, and the atmosphere inside the gym remains exactly the same as day 1. Relentless. The work never changes. The grind never stops. Whether it's week 1 or week 10, the mentality is identical. Show up and put in the work. With just weeks until he faces Charles Oliveira for the BMF title at UFC 326, the intensity is what it's always been. Maximum effort every single session.
10 seconds.
Expecting between the two of you. We know you're going to throw down, but what does it look like stylistically?
It's going to be a fun fight, you know. He's a fighter. He's your fighter's favorite fighter. I'm your fighter's favorite fighter, and that's what you're gonna get. You know, a lot of fans online they're kind of heartbroken about this fight happening. You know, so at the end of the day, I get it. It is what it is. Whenever you get a Charles Oliveira, whatever you get myself fighting, you know it's gonna be a fight. So I'm excited.
I'm gonna slightly lean Charles. And I'm not a Charles hater by any means. I love watching Charles Oliveira fights. I appreciate what he's done. I get why everybody loves him. But I have always been sort of I don't know if he's as good as people say. Obviously, he's got all the finishes, but I'm still going to lean him here. I think this is going to be an absolute banger. For the love of God, picks can change. If you are watching this video and UFC 326 is in a few days, you're watching the wrong video. I promise you, I have broken this down several times since then. So hang up, before you leave, hang up, go find a newer video and watch that. But I'm going to slight lean Charles here. I love Charles. He's exciting. I've questioned his accolades in the past. I love Max Holloway. He's exciting. Never really questioned his accolades. But I think Charles has the upside here. So Charles is the early pick. Guys,
Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira are about to cross paths again, and neither one is easing into it. This fight carries weight on both sides. Max wants to show that the first result was no fluke. Charles wants to prove he can beat Max this time and silence every doubt. There is no slow start here, only pressure from the opening bell.
Pick the best position because the long guy, got to get up. And then the guy on the top should be winning most of the rounds, right? Because the guy at the bottom should be like time managing, just being smart. If I told you we down, we need to get back, that's a whole different fight. But right now, I was trying to make you guys manage. When you guys on top, you guys manage holding, you guys manage winning, you know? When we're bottom, just manage surviving sometimes. Just survive, get to the next round, who cares, you know? Right now, the time. We have times of fights where we're gonna be like, get the hell up, Brad, get the hell up, L. But that's not it right now, you know? Right here. I was telling you guys the first takedown, take control of that. Don't think you're being an ass.
Question for Max Holloway. Max, this is the 5th BMF fight now. You beat in 3 of them. You and Charles enter this matchup with the most combined wins in the UFC of any fight in UFC history. In your opinion, is this the most BMF-worthy fight we've had yet?
For sure, you know, I can't wait. You know, we have some unfinished business from 11 years ago, so we get to go out there and finally figure it out.
Max is thinking of Charles as a pawn in a bigger plan. This fight isn't treated like some side quest or some fun BMF defense. He clearly sees it as another step to the undisputed title. Charles is positioned as a real obstacle, not some name fight. Max knows Charles was just recently at the top, beat elite guys, and still carries that danger. Max also makes it very clear that the BMF belt doesn't change how he fights. That matters because people expect chaos when that belt is involved.
I mean, being the only guy to defend the BMF belt, it's cool and all, you know? But it's just another record, you know? At the end of the day, I can't sit here, relax, and smell the roses. We gotta keep going, we gotta keep trucking, you know? Now I can be the only man to defend it twice. So at the end of the day, I got history in my mind. But you know, the end goal, defending this belt is cool and all, but the end goal is the undisputed title, you know? And I believe Charles Oliveira being a very worthy opponent, you know, he was the last one to fight for a title. He was an undisputed title holder at one point. With a win over Dustin, with a win over him, if I can go out there, do a BMF moment again and get my hand raised, maybe we get me one step closer to the undisputed title.
And look at the corner.
You know, not at all. You know, everybody always asks that question, you know, with the BMF title, is there a different way? It's a fight, man. It's just another fight, you know. Yeah, I think I'm a BMF in any fight I did, no title or not, you know, even in the undisputed title. So at the end of the day.
When Max talked about Charles' skill set, he did not reduce him to just jiu-jitsu. He brought up the damage Charles does before the fight even hits the ground. That mattered for the upcoming fight, because it shows Max knows this fight will not be clean or slow. Charles hurts people standing, in close, and during scrambles.
The first thing that comes to my mind when I hear the name Charles Oliveira, you know, former champion, an animal, a killer. A lot of people talk about him in his jiu-jitsu, but he's putting guys down with his striking and then using his jiu-jitsu. So that guy's a dangerous man, you know. I got nothing but love and respect for him. But at the end of the day, March 7th, when those Octagon doors close, he's just another guy. Oliveira's a killer, man. You know, that's all I can say. Everybody keep talking about jiu-jitsu, jiu-jitsu this, jiu-jitsu that. Go watch his tape back, bro. He's hurting guys on the feet, you know. He's hurting them with his boxing. He's hurting them with kicks, hurting them with knees, hurting them with elbows. He's hurting them in the clinch. The guy's a well-rounded fighter, you know. I think a lot of people look at him and call him a jiu-jitsu guy because of his finishes. Most of his finishes is with submissions, but that guy's hurting people on the feet, you know. He's ground and pounding people, so.
Merab's also touched on his mistakes. At this level, one small error can change everything. He is not saying Charles is unbeatable. He says Charles is the kind of fighter who will find that one opening if you give him the chance.
The dude is just a dangerous man, you know, and those kind of things, when I think about it, brings a smile to my face, you know. These are the kind of people I want to beat. I want to beat the best guys in the world, and he's considered one of the best guys in the world right now, so like I said, I'm on my way to an undisputed title, and he's just another man in the way. I mean, you know, against Charles Oliveira, you know, you gotta keep your mistakes to a minimum, to be honest. I mean, at anybody at this level, you need to keep your mistakes at a minimum. You know, it's we're dangerous people, especially when you get to these top 5 guys, man. They always find a way. How much times we see Hail Mary punches or Hail Mary submission out of nowhere? You know, this is the best guys in the world, and they're always in the fight. They're always gonna keep on fighting, so you gotta respect every aspect of the game, and I just can't wait. Like I've been saying, I can't wait to go out there, share the Octagon. And
Max repeated the same idea about BMF again at the press conference and said that this fight is not some random fight for him. His #1 goal is still the undisputed title, but as soon as the BMF fight with Charles was offered, he jumped at it. Max knows what he is getting into in this fight. As the former champion, he is taking this fight because it is important, not because he needs it. When Max spoke about their first fight, it was brought up because the ending never gave a real answer. The injury stopped everything before it could play out, and that is why this matchup exists now.
I know you said you wanted this fight, but when the whole thing happened with Ilya Topuria, was any part of you hoping you would get the call for this interim fight instead?
It is what it is, you know. I want to get an undisputed title. They came with me with Charles for the BMF. We're here now.
And what is the unfinished business for you? Because you obviously were the winner of the first fight, even though it ended strangely.
I mean, you know, he had his injury, so at the end of the day, we get to figure out how it goes come March 7th. I'm just excited, man. He's a legend of the sport. He deserves this moment, and I can't wait to go out there and give it to him.
For Charles, the BMF belt isn't a joke or a gimmick. He talks about it like something tied to legacy, something that actually matters if you earn it. This isn't about holding another belt for the cameras. It's about adding a real mark to his career. Charles also makes it clear this fight wasn't handed to him. He asked for Max. He wanted this matchup and the BMF belt that comes with it.
And with the former champion Charles Oliveira, who will fight for the BMF belt against Max Holloway, what does this BMF belt opportunity mean for you?
E com esse campeão dos leves aqui, Charles Oliveira, que agora vai lutar pelo cinturão do BMF contra o Max Holloway. O que o BMF significa para você?
Com certeza, algo gigante, um legado. Quando você fala sobre legado, você se torna campeão do BMF, é algo gigante.
For sure, something huge, legacy. And when you talk about, you know, being a BMF champion, that's huge for legacy.
And I know you asked for this fight against Max Holloway. How excited are you to throw down with Max? Because you both bring the fight. We know it's going to be an exciting fight. How do you describe how it's going to play out?
E a gente sabe que você pediu essa luta contra o Max e pediu esse BMF. A gente sabe que vocês dois gostam de luta, gostam de porrada, vão pra cima. Quão empolgado você ficou com essa luta?
Com certeza, 100%. Desde quando eu venho pedindo ela, eu sabia que essa luta ia acontecer. Então, com certeza, lutar contra um cara gigante como o Max vai ser muito top.
100% very excited. I knew that this fight was going to happen as soon as I asked for it. I'm very happy to fight against Max.
When Charles talks about how the fight will go, he doesn't lock himself into one result. He speaks about hunting, staying busy, and finishing when the opening shows itself. It's not about looking pretty or scoring points, it's about winning, however the fight unfolds. At the same time, he ties this fight to a bigger picture.
How'd you get your hand raised?
E como é que esse braço vai ser levantado?
Com certeza, vai ser uma grande luta, né? Tudo pode acontecer. A gente está falando sobre MMA, eu vou caçar o tempo inteiro, ou eu vou nocautear, eu vou finalizar, eu quero vencer.
For sure it's going to be a great fight. Listen, anything can happen. It's MMA. I'm going to be hunting all the time. May not knock him out, maybe finish him, but I'm gonna for sure have my arm raised.
How much is the goal to get back to that lightweight title once again?
E qual é o quão grande é o objetivo que você tem também, além do BMF, de voltar a disputar o título dos leves?
As coisas acontecem no tempo de Deus, foi como eu falei, eu precisava de uma ou duas lutas para poder lutar pelo título, e aconteceu isso, essa luta ainda agora no Rio, venci uma grande luta, e agora vou começar o ano de 2026 com mais uma grande luta, vencendo o Max Holloway com certeza, sou o próximo da fila.
Things happen in God's time. I've always said this. I figured that I needed a couple of fights to get back into the title picture. I get that great win in Rio, come out with a win. Now I have a great fight coming up. Beating Max, I think it should be done.
Angelo Bodetti framed Max vs. Charles 2 as the perfect reason the BMF belt even exists. He also pushed back on the idea that this is a true continuation of their first fight. On paper, it says Max won years ago, but Angelo made it clear that the fight barely got started. It ended on an injury before anything meaningful happened. Because of that, he treats this like a fresh matchup rather than something tied to 2015. Too much time has passed, and both fighters are completely different now.
Max Holloway taking on Charles Oliveira for the BMF belt. I'm not going to break down who Max is and who Charles is. You know who they are. One of them is the all-time significant strike king, and the other one's the all-time submission king. And that's what this belt is for. It's an amazing matchup. It's exactly why this belt exists. All-time significant strikes versus all-time submission king coming together for a belt that they otherwise would not be fighting for. And as you know, this is a rematch from 2015. And if all you did was look at records, you would look at that and say, oh, Max Holloway beat Charles Oliveira by TKO. But that's not what happened. That's not how it went down. Really, nothing happened. And then about a minute and a half into the fight, Charles Oliveira shoots a takedown, somehow fucks his neck up, and the fight is waved off. It's a rematch on paper, but the first fight wasn't even a fight. And honestly, even if it was a fight, it was so long ago that I would break this down fresh anyway. This is an outstanding fight. We have two tremendous fan favorites.
Angelo loved the idea of Charles standing and trading with Max in training clips, but he did not fully buy into it. In his view, Charles has no reason to stay in Max's world for long stretches. The real advantage is on the ground, and Charles has shown he is willing to wrestle elite fighters when it makes sense. Mixing in takedowns is less about control and more about forcing Max to think twice. There was also a big segment with Angelo explaining how fighters get drawn into Max's pace. Max has so much output, and fighters end up engaging in a striking fight, even when it is not advantageous. Angelo believes Charles is experienced enough not to fall into this pattern. The shooting takedowns can change the whole pace of the fight, even if there is no guarantee of a takedown working. Once Max is worried about level changes, he is exposed on his feet. Angelo leans slightly toward Charles, not out of disrespect to Max, but because of upside. He praised Max's resume without hesitation, but felt Charles has more paths to win if he fights smart. The belief is that Charles can blend his skills better in this matchup. That is why, at least early on, Angelo gave Charles the edge in what he still expects to be a wild fight either way. Bedtime MMA showed that Charles now takes his time during exchanges instead of his previous practice of rushing them. He prefers to begin wrestling fights by pushing his opponents to the fence before achieving control. That shift matters because it shows a more measured approach, one that relies less on chaos and more on positioning and pressure. People believe that threats will continue to exist at the same time. Charles's fights almost always include moments with fast swings or knockdowns. Max handles those moments differently from others who face similar situations. Max has already faced these challenges and he lost health points, but he maintained his composure to continue fighting. Bedtime MMA also focused on Max's output and precision at lightweight. The argument is not just that Max throws more, but that his shots land cleaner and faster. His footwork combinations and timing create steady damage, especially to the body. That approach allows him to build rounds piece by piece without needing a turning point. MMA Guru leans into the idea that both guys are being pushed forward at the same time, even if the title picture is messy. The winner looks good, stays relevant, and stays in the mix, but it does not automatically fix who is next for the belt. That is where his skepticism comes in, because he does not fully buy the idea that this win guarantees a title shot. On Oliveira's side, MMA Guru frames him as someone the UFC trusts to deliver chaos. Not clean wins, not safe fights, but moments. That is why this matchup makes sense to him. Charles brings unpredictability, finishes, and pressure, and that creates real tension with Max's volume style. From his breakdown, it feels like the UFC is betting on violence first and clarity later. Ultimately, this fight appears to be about more than just another name on Charles's resume. This is what makes this fight so compelling. It is two men who have been to the top, have taken a few hard knocks, but still believe they have what it takes to be right up there. This fight is not about the hype or the surrounding circumstances, it is about pride and legacy. Max Holloway wants to show that he is still that man, and Charles Oliveira wants to show that he is not finished yet either. What is at stake here has the potential to turn the whole world on its head. Let us know in the comments below who you believe will win this fight and why.